Jay here, welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 271. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about painting, modeling, and working experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 DVDs a week? No! Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off some more information about the upcoming Ork Boyz for the Armageddon box, and we got some new minis. Games Workshop showed off the new Ork Boyz, and how there's actually going to be a fair amount of kit bashing and converting. I guess not kit bashing because I don't know if the other Ork kits are going to be able to fit on these guys, but within the kit itself, it seems like there's a lot of modularity. All of the different bodies and legs can fit on some of the other bodies and legs, which is pretty darn good. I've put together a bunch of the current Ork Boyz box, not to be confused with Ork Boyz. I think it's just called Boyz on the web store. But there's the classic like 1999 Ork Boy box, which has arguably like full posability. Well, it has some slight modularity. The old Ork Boy kit, you've got a little bit of maneuverability in the hips, and then in theory, you can take the arms and you can glue them on like a little bit like this or a little bit like this, but that's kind of all you get, especially with the giant orc head that sits in the middle of their chest. So you definitely have a small amount of wiggle room in the gun position and the choppa and slugga position, but there was something there. And that kit did work in conjunction with like the Ludas and the Burnas. You could definitely do some business in terms of kit bashing. These new guys though, they look so much better than the current Boyz kit, which is truly monopose. Like you'll have one guy his leg is connected to a sliver of his torso, which is connected to his head. And all of these different puzzle pieces connect only in one very specific way. And if you wanted to do some changes, it would definitely take some doing and some green stuff to really make it happen. Where these guys, it seems like they're actually gonna work pretty well out of the box for, any head can fit on any body. A lot of the bodies can be swapped out depending on which leg you wanna use. And then the knob has the big boss, the boy knob, has got 2 different torsos that do look really, really different. So I would say out of this box, you can guarantee to have like 20 boys that look really, really good and really unique from one another. Now it's interesting that they're doing such a good job on these miniatures. I wonder if moving forward into the future, this is the new Boyz kit. Like, are they just gonna take the sprues from the Armageddon box, repackage them, and then these are the Ork Boyz going forward? I feel like they could, like if they work as well as it says that they do in the article, that'd probably be fine. I do kind of still hope that we're gonna get a multi-part plastic Boyz box. I also assume, I think they said in an article a little while back, there are still gonna be options for a big shooter and a missile launcher. Arguably they don't need to be because that was never a very good option and no one really cared. But if they want to continue that going forward, it doesn't seem like that's going to be available in the Armageddon box. So we would have to get something else to make those weapon options available. And they cannot keep the old 1999 kit kicking around. That's just not an option. That box. I've put together a lot of those boys and there is something charming about them. But if there's just better out now, then I want the better orcs. These new orcs do look like tons of fun. I love the sluggas and choppas and the shootas. I like that they're all decked out in weird, wacky ways. It is interesting that the knob doesn't seem to come with a power claw, but depending on how the new cleave rule works, it could be that the big choppa is kind of the one to pick, where the power claw is only really an anti-armor option. Classically, the power claw is okay because it's strength 8, so it can be wounding Space Marines on 2s and like Space Marine equivalent things on 2s. So there's a little something, and boys in general are in a little bit of a weird spot. The power creep of Warhammer 40k has kind of moved in such a way that even Ork Boyz who get a decent amount of strength 4 AP 1 damage 1 attacks, and they've got like decent maneuverability, they're really cheap at 10 boys for 80 points. There's nothing wrong with the Ork Boyz, they just don't really do enough. If you don't have like a war boss attached to your boys, you can't really expect them to do a whole lot of damage. The war boss and then the power claw in the squad typically does like 70 or 80% of the damage, and then the boys kind of just fill in with a huge number of attacks. I don't know if there's a way necessarily to make boys a little more exciting. If their lethality was just increased, I feel like that would kind of work to give boys a better place in like the codex, but I feel like it wouldn't feel right to just like give boys strength 5 or AP -2 or +1 damage, because that feels a little bit more specialized. Like that should be coming from knobs or the shooting attacks from like a flash gets. I feel like maybe if boys had some movement shenanigans, maybe a surge move, or maybe if they could have some sort of a reposition move, like after they make a normal move, maybe they can, or if they got like +2 to charge. +2 to charge would be kind of huge, because all of a sudden, like a 9-inch charge is only a 7-inch charge, and a 7-inch charge you can almost count on making. So like that, I feel like that would be a really solid way of increasing the power of Ork Boyz, where if they can just move a little bit further than they currently can, they can bully the board, and they can just have a little bit more, you know, you can count on them just a little bit more than you can right now. But I think as they stand, regular Ork Boyz, they're fine. You probably will always have like 2 or 3 squads in your army with war bosses attached, just to do a little something, while the more lethal, more elite units in your Ork army actually are the ones that are killing your opponent's army and scoring objectives and actually doing the things. Also in this article, it shows off that there's going to be some similar opposing options for the Gretchen. I love the new Gretchen. The only sad thing about the new Gretchen is that they're Gretchen, and they're so bad. Arguably, they're still better than, what are those little piggy guys for the Tyranids? The piggy gaunts do nothing. It's an 11 model unit. That's like 40 points. It's nothing. I think they can actually be attached to the Norn character, not the Norn Assimilator, the Psyker Tyrants that came in the Leviathan box. I think you are technically allowed to attach that to the piggy gaunts, but you would never do it because even 22 bodies is nothing for your opponent to chew through. They're so bad. They're just bodies on the field. Gretchen are ever so slightly just better than bodies on the field. They do have guns that hit on 4s, which is unusual for the orcs. They can be attached to Zagrod Wartsnaga. You can attach Gretchen to him. If you attach like a 20-man blob, he increases their survivability and their lethality ever so slightly to make them decent. And I think he gives them scout. So you could like scout 6 and then move 6 and then charge 6, which actually gives them a fairly hilarious threat range. I think in the WA turn, you also have advance and charge. So if you like, you can do some hilarious stuff with Gretchen, but it is a little sad that the models look so cool and they've got these nice little machine guns and their little fists, but they're kind of nothing. Like you'll if you spend some serious time painting them up and making them look great, you're gonna take them off the field so incredibly fast. And it'll feel a little bit sad, but I would definitely prefer the new models to the old models. I think the new orcs are shaping up to be really cool. But speaking of new orcs coming in the Armageddon box, we also got a new stealth drop for 40k, and that is from Age of Sigmar, the new Hedonites of Slaanesh character, the Lord of Hysteria. This guy is so weird and wacky, and I really, really like him. He's got legs for days. This guy, like, look at that weird leg armor that ends in a hoof, like a very literal hoof. I love his weird shoulder armor that is attached to his weird like bullet-shaped helmet that's topped with a weird like icon of Slaanesh. It's such a weird, wacky character. And I feel like this guy would slot very nicely into a Slaanesh army for 40k. But could I Dark Eldar this guy? There's a little something there. Maybe a homunculus? Maybe he could become like a rack kind of character. I could definitely flay that little bit of exposed skin. I might need to get rid of the headdress, or maybe the headdress is kind of perfect for a homunculus. I don't know, there's definitely some weird Dark Eldar potential here. I guess it could also just be an Archon, a very, very distinctive, weird, interesting Archon. This model seems like it has so much potential. I really, really like both of the weapon options. He can either have just a blade, and then behind him some really nice tassels coming off of some kind of a back spike apparatus, or he can have a flail that's got some billowing smoke pouring out of it. It's a really, really nice figure. Age of Sigmar did such a good job with Slaanesh, and I would love for 40k to try. Like Slaanesh, all of the different Chaos Gods, demon versions, they're fine. The greater demons are really cool. It seems like Games Workshop's trying to get rid of some of the weird like chariot options and things that are still kicking around. You got some things like the Screamers and the Pink Horrors and the basic troopers, your Plague Bearers, your Demonettes, like it's fine. It all still kind of works, but if you like look at the Hedonites of Slaanesh from Age of Sigmar, they're so cool. I mean, it is like Xerxes and his legions from 300. They look really good. They've got a style. They've got a way about them. Where the 40k stuff, it is just some of the oldest models in the 40k catalog that are still kind of kicking around. They got an index, and then they got a couple of detachments that are still making them playable in 40k, but they did not get a codex. And that does seem weird. I feel like Chaos Demons are one of the pillars of the Warhammer 40,000 world. Like, if you travel through the warp, you're probably gonna get attacked by demons. It's such an iconic thing. There's a whole entire faction called Grey Knights, whose only job is to fight demons. And yet, there's no codex for them to fight. Like, Games Workshop has to figure this out. Demons need to be an important part of 40k, and currently they're just kinda not. If you're playing like Death Guard, you can take one specific detachment that lets you bring 1,000 points of Nurgle demons. And so you bring the greater demon of Nurgle, and then like 3 units of Plague Bearers, and then 2 Plague Beasts of Nurgle, and then that's it. That's all it is. There's nothing with a lot of oomph. Where Age of Sigmar, I feel like has been doing a really good job with the other Chaos Gods. But 40k has not just gotten stealth drops, they also got a proper miniature Caiaphas Cain. I've read a few of the Caiaphas Cain novels, and they're really good. They're very funny. And it is interesting, like, I feel like if you read the back of the book where it explains who Cain is, they kind of make him feel like a bumbling oaf, or like he's a very reluctant hero. But in the books, he just is a hero. Like, he's just a normal, good guy who's kind of, like, the reason that he always seems to come out on top in the end is because he just kind of makes the intelligent choice. You know, he runs into some aliens, and instead of fighting them, he's like, no, these guys are big and strong. I don't want to fight these guys. And it turns out that was absolutely the right decision. And it ends up super mattering in the plot of the book. Like, he's just kind of a smart guy in the world of 40k, and he uses his station as a commissar to like just have enough authority to keep himself alive, which ends up keeping his compatriots alive. Everything just kind of works out for him. And it's really, really funny to read. And it's kind of like the hilarious thing in Warhammer 40k is everything is bad and awful and terrible, but every character is kind of an example against that overarching idea. Like, none of the characters that we have in any of these novels is truly like an evil monster who's just completely brainwashed. I think it'd be really fun if Lord Solar Leontis was just an idea more so than an actual literal guy who's perfect. And the reason that so many Imperial Guard regiments don't just desert immediately is because they look to this fictional idea. That's a little bit also like Yarick, but Yarick is also hyper capable. Everyone in 40k is so much better than the world should be able to produce. And there's definitely some fun to be had there, but I do wish that 40k would like really sink its teeth into the villainy and the monstrousness of their world a little bit more often. But yeah, Caiaphas Cain is just a really good guy who somehow came out of the world of Warhammer 40,000. And I think there's like 10 books in the Caiaphas Cain series. I've only read the first 2, and they're both very good. They're very fun reads. They're very silly. And the way that the books are written is in a really interesting way, where some of it is from Caiaphas Cain's perspective, and then some of it is from the perspective of an Inquisitor giving reports on what she's doing. And as their characters' story more and more intersects until they actually meet up in the story, you can actually hear like her reports getting more lax. And instead of being written in a really clinical way, they start to be written like in a really blasé way. And then once they actually meet up fully, then it's kind of just her monologuing to herself in her head. It's really, really well done. But Caiaphas Cain now has an actual miniature. Also, alongside Caiaphas Cain is his stinky friend Jurgen, which I think he's a psychic blank. He's a null, or I think null might be something specific, but he's a psychic blank. And so he is like just a black hole in the warp. And that is really, really hard for demons or chaos to deal with, which is really important to help keep Caiaphas Cain safe. But it is fun that his little sidekick is also a miniature alongside him. It'd be fun to try to write rules for Caiaphas Cain, because realistically, he is just a commissar with a chainsword and a las pistol. Like 3 wounds at toughness 3, maybe 3 attacks at strength 3. Do chainswords even have AP in the Imperial Guard? I feel like they don't. Like, it would be the most nothing character. But then you'd have to write some kind of a special rule to introduce how lucky he is. Oh, I guess you could do something like an Eldar Fate dice, where it's like once per attack sequence, you can change 1 roll of a hit, 1 wound, and 1 save characteristic to an automatic 6. That could be a cute way of having him represent the way he does in the novels. Although realistically, like Caiaphas Cain, he's not a battle line leader. He's usually doing some shenanigans on the periphery of battles, in the periphery of 40k. The miniature looks really, really fun. There's been a lot of commissars this year. There was Commissar Grays, and then there was Yarrick back from the dead, and now we've got Caiaphas Cain. Are there too many commissars? There was the event exclusive commissar model that Games Workshop made a little while ago. There's been several different plastic commissars over the years, and then there was so many metal commissars. And what's kind of funny is, I think even in 9th edition, it's been several editions of Warhammer since you've ever wanted to actually include a commissar. They're just they're a little bit like chaplains for 40k, although chaplains for Space Marines are pretty good. Where commissars, it can be important for Battle Shock, but Battle Shock never really seemed to matter much in 10th edition. Maybe moving into 11th edition, Battle Shock is going to be a little bit more of a big deal, but we'll see. I think this model is really more so just to have a little toy of the fun character from the books, and less so like, what is this? How is this guy going to shake up the meta of Warhammer 40k? Because he just won't, and that's okay. The only thing that needs to be shaken up is some of the amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocked on our excellent hobby goodies: Gamer's Grass Tufts, Grey Tide Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, base and cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we've got terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack I've ever made, or the brand new one. New in May, we have created the Cyber City, a set of terrain perfect for any fast-paced war game. These beautiful gleaming buildings are the picture of future affluence, ready to be fought over and on top of. These pieces were designed to give plenty of line of sight blocking terrain, with lots of room on top for miniatures to stand on. And with a stacking system, you can build a board up into the air with lots of catwalks and staircases to let you battle in the 3rd dimension. To sprinkle around the city, there are some sci-fi accessories like line of sight blocking hologram projectors, rooftop doors, computer terminals, crates, and snack machines. Everything a future battlefield needs. This terrain set was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. I have been hard at work getting ready for 11th edition. I am almost of the way through my 2nd squad of bolter-wielding Inceptors. I almost said suppressors, but I'm getting better at the difference between Inceptors and suppressors, not to be confused with Eradicators and all of the other ridiculous Primaris names. But I'm gonna be hitting the ground running for 11th edition. I got some Space Marines in the works. Thanks for watching.